Let's move on to New York City. Lots chatting now on how the activities that are happening had happened over the weekend and in the past have changed New Yorkers, and that they are becoming numb. Haven't New Yorkers become numb long ago, or is it just a different type of numbness?
Well, not just New Yorkers. In fact, all of us. Ipsos Reid Polling did a poll in August, or they released it in August, and they asked Canadians, are you desensitized to terrorism? And I think it was an astonishing, I'm going from memory here, 49% of Canadians say they are desensitized to some degree about terrorist attacks that they're hearing in the news. Now, what was interesting, that the poll went on to say, as a result of these terrorist activities, does it cause you to think twice about travel? That number was in the 60 percentile, 60 percentages. So on the one hand, yeah, we're desensitized. On the other hand, it is affecting behavior, or at least thought, which in turn will affect behavior. And we are seeing that, travel and tourism to European countries, and to some degree even to the United States, is down by Canadians this year.
So if you were desensitized to all this, you'd just be going on your merry way and traveling. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I am saying. So on the one hand, we may not be paying quite the same attention to those news events because, they're in other countries, they're in other places. It may not affect us directly. But on the other hand, when we consider that there may be a direct impact because we're going to a place of concern, it's altering our thinking and our behavior.
Frank writes, Scott, you know that Chicago has exceeded 500 murders this year. Unfortunately, the height of murder rates below the border aren't new. Years ago, 30-some when entering the United States, Windsor into Detroit, I would turn on my car radio, the local CBS station, and when the news came on, the announcer used to say, Detroit recorded its 275th murder overnight. Now, with the news, no mention or any details whatsoever, as though it was an understood routine event. Is that the way we've become? We don't even bother talking about them anymore?
I used to do a lot of work on CHCH as well. And one of the producers there told me, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
But now it has to be a certain kind of blood. It's not just the murders and stabbings in the city. Now it really is on a global scale and on a more frightening scale when we attach the word terror to the event. That is what's capturing our attention more so in our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news cycle.
So are cities like New York City, Chicago, some even say, Toronto is getting up there. Do these sorts of events affect the city less than, say, a rural area or a smaller town?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Scott.
Well, if there's an attack like this in a larger center, do they get over it faster? Does it mean less? Often when you see crimes or events like this happen in smaller areas, well, this never happens around here. Whereas in New York City or Chicago, yeah, it happens a lot around here.
Well, pardon me, there certainly is that kind of thinking. We had a bomb that was blown up in a taxi with the perpetrator and the taxi driver in the vehicle. Here in Stratford, what was that, in the summertime?
Yeah.
And, people of Stratford were dumbstruck because that is not the typical happenings in the little town of Stratford. So there can be a greater sense of unease when we feel like we should be more removed from this, and then it's at our front door too.
Are you worried that as time goes forward, how does this affect the kids? How does this affect children growing up in this environment? We see the horrific images of refugees and what those kids are going through, so on and so forth. What does this do to the kids that are living in this environment? I don't think that parents realize the degree to which
children are getting desensitized to violence due to exposure. It's happening in our schools as well. I chat frequently with EAs, educational assistants, whose responsibility includes managing students who are violent. And they're underserviced. There's not enough staff to go around. And so what parents don't realize, your student may not have the EA, but because of lack of funding, lack of services, your student will be witness to events in their own classroom. So from the classroom to the community to the world, our children are witnessing directly and or indirectly more and more acts of violence, and we do see that it is desensitizing them. Parents, when your student comes home today, ask them, have you ever seen anyone hit or throw something or break something or have a meltdown in your classroom? When was it? How did it make you feel? And you may hear, I'm used to it. It's nothing. I'd be concerned if I heard that. Right?
Well, maybe it's nothing more than that happens at the dinner table every night.
Well, that's true, too, because these events do happen in people's homes as well.
Gary Dierenfeld has been with us, social worker, yoursocialworker.com to find out more. Gary, as always, thanks for the time. Much appreciated. And thanks for the cupcakes the other day.
Shout out to the cupcake place in Westdale. They were delicious.
Oh, my goodness. Were they?